Welcome to the Palo Santo and Thoughts podcast. As I light the Palo Santo, let us reset the space, allowing new energy and new thoughts to enter. What was does not automatically become what is, and even if it does, it does not mean it always will. Let us release what we must to receive what we must. It is mine. It is yours. What is for us will always be Ashe.
Welcome back. What's up to the old homies? What's up to the new homies? I'm Carter, and this is the Palo Santo and Thoughts podcast. Today, I'm joined with one of the homies, Quentin, also known as Q. He's a nonprofit executive, a gender violence activist, global gender violence activist, and also a photographer. So, Q, man, I really appreciate you joining this episode, and I'm excited to talk about this topic of love. I feel like the spaces that you created for men to come together to just express and talk about just different feelings and thoughts is really dope, and so I'm really thankful that you pulled up. And if there's anything that you want to share to the homies, please do.
Welcome to the old homies and the new homies. I just want to say, thank you for inviting me into the space.
Yeah.
I've seen the podcast grow and develop
Yeah.
over the last year or so, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's great to be here, and I'm glad to lend my support and my 2 cents, to the conversation on love.
For sure. Well, I'm sure it's more than 2 cents that you're gonna list, so thank you very much. But so for those of you who are new to the Palo Santo and Thoughts podcast, in season 1, pretty much I talked about different aspects of love. So I shared on my personal experience, and in season 2, I've been inviting different homies to talk about love. And so really excited for you all to just be in this space with us. And so, first things first, always important to just check in and say, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. You know what I mean? I could be better, to be honest. I've been struggling with some, you could call it physical or medical issues.
Yeah.
And having eye issues.
Yeah.
I'm fresh off a second eye surgery.
Yeah.
And so slowly healing.
Yeah.
So really reflecting on healing and what that means.
Yeah.
And not Q's version of healing and doing 7 jobs opposed to 10 jobs. Really slowing down and, letting the body heal. You know, it's, as much as, we're both kind of in this healing space, so to speak, as practitioners and telling people what they need to do. It's like practicing what you preach, particularly for me, because it's so easy to tell somebody, oh, you need to do this, you need to slow down, you need to try this practice, but living that is a whole another story. And part of the round tables that you attend, we have weekly, and for over the, I don't know how many years you've been coming to it now, but a lot of that is about providing healing practices and accountability, really.
Yeah.
So holding people accountable. So I need to be held accountable as well to heal and slow down and those things as well. So I'm trying to practice. It's a struggle for me, being one that kind of takes care of a lot of people and organizationally, and kind of the field that I'm in, to kind of step back and slow down and really kind of either delegate or trust the masses of people to do what they need to do and practice myself. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I'm looking forward to my birthday just passed
Happy belated.
a few days ago, and I'm looking forward to this new trip around the sun. And it coincides with the new year. So I'm looking to really kind of work differently and slow down and be in my own different practices as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No,
What about you?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, it sounds, even though it's been challenging, you're still working through it. And I think that effort within itself is the work, so just want to acknowledge that and, say shout out to you for doing that. Cause
Appreciate that.
It's easy just to be like, I ain't gonna do it. And but the practice of okay, this is new and I don't like this, but I'm gonna still do it. And even if it's not as much as I want to, I'm still trying. I'm still putting effort to it.
Right.
That within itself, I think just, don't want to lose that. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
how am I doing? I'm doing all right. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I feel like I've definitely been in a space of just a lot of growth, and it has been eye-opening. And I think that in a sense of like, I have this idea of who I am as a leader. And I feel like I've been positioned into different spaces where I get to see if I am that leader,
Gotcha.
and I've been appreciating the learning. And I also even think just trying to focus on gratitude more as well. Just because I think in moments of high stress, it's easy to just to give a lot of attention to the frustration and all the different emotions that may come up with that, and just trying to be more mindful of like, I can feel this, give myself the space to feel these different feelings, but then also like getting back to the space of like gratitude.
Self gratitude.
Yeah, self
Right.
gratitude, and then also even just thinking about like, okay, where's the benefits of this challenge? You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, this doesn't feel good, but how can this help me?
Right.
You know what I mean? And centering that as like a moment of like, okay, this is an opportunity, and even if it's not the opportunity I want, it still is something that I can benefit from. You know, so I would say I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I am. I just feel like I just need a little bit more rest.
Okay.
I need a little more
Yeah,
rest.
it's important.
It's so important, you know what I mean?
Right.
And when you're passionate, when you are truly connected to your purpose, or you just have a commitment to it, I think that learning that rest is important to your sustainability and your ability to show up for yourself, but also others. I think is just something that I have to be reminded of, and it's a work in progress.
Indeed.
you know. And the next question was about like how are we showing grace to ourselves, but I kind of feel like we already talked about that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. It's a
You know?
work in progress. It's a great term.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's the commitment to it, though.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and so we've already talked about grace, and I want to invite you all to think about like how can you show grace to yourself. Especially just acknowledging like there's so many different things that's happening that will happen, and it's always important to just think of how you could be kind to yourself. And in doing that, it creates space for you to also extend that kindness to others as well. So
There's a term that I always use, and I tell people, be easy on others,
yeah,
but to really be easy on yourself.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think it's difficult sometimes. I think it's even difficult. People use that term. I want to give you your flowers.
yeah,
And it's always, let me give you your flowers while you're alive.
yeah,
And I think that's, I think we need to change that terminology.
yeah,
Because one, we're already thinking about this person no longer being here, right? So just acknowledging people, being gracious and giving them gratitude, and it doesn't need to be a one-time thing.
yeah,
You can do that along the way, along your journey. I think that's important. Sometimes that's what people need
yeah,
to hear, like, oh, you appreciate me,
yeah,
I had an impact in your life.
yeah,
And hearing that several times, being committed to that and being consistent about doing that as well, I think that's important too. So I give you your flowers
yeah.
and your flowers for putting this together and creating this space. I remember the first time I saw you, you had like shaving cream on your face or something like that. I was like, what is going on with my brother here? But then as and the first thing too, and the number one thing was like, his name is Carter. It's like you learn something every day. So, and that's what I meant by like seeing the podcast grow and seeing you really get deeper, getting deeper. And you're always kind of eloquent and thought provoking on the round tables that we have.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you I appreciate you and your gratitude for making this happen, creating this space, not only for other people but just for yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's important too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. I received that, and we talking about giving flowers, man. I think about the first time I came to a round table, man.
Yeah, how many years ago was that?
I want to say it was before the pandemic started.
Right.
It was before the pandemic started, so maybe it might have been the year of the pandemic. So I can't think about the years, but one of my homies, he told me about the space, and I was just like. He was like, yo, it's this dope space for men to come together. and just like, having really dope conversations. And I remember going there and I was just like, oh, this is a vibe. You know what I mean? Because, then in that time frame, I was still somewhat early to move into New York. And so I was in a space where I was just like trying to find community.
Right.
And I was like, I felt like for me, the community I was looking for was just like centered around wellness and just like healthy relationships and just like healthy conversation.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was the space that you have created over the years. And you also just do so much work just in the community, you know what I mean, that I wasn't aware of. And over the years, I've learned more about who you are, to the point where I remember one time one of my colleagues, I was like talking about, oh, I go to this men's group, and I showed a picture of you, and she was like, what? You know him? Oh my gosh! It's like, yo, he does something. And it just spoke so highly of you, and I was just like, dang, you know what I mean?
Great.
Like, and so for me, it's just like this. When we talk about giving flowers, I also want to give flowers to you, because I feel like, you have been creating spaces for people, but especially men, to like really think about how they're showing up in the world, but also having a community to have different perspective, but then also that accountability that you talk about, which I think is super critical. And, you've just been doing it for years, and I have personally benefited from it. You know what I mean? In the sense where, even when the pandemic happened and we shifted virtual, that was such a calming, consistent practice of just like, by the time I left that call, regardless of how I was feeling, I always felt uplifted, like, wow, this was really good.
That's
and so,
great to hear.
you created that space, and you hold that space, you continue to hold that space. And so thank you for, being an example of what it looks like to create community, but also to bring men together, because that's another component too, right? Which is like,
Sure.
When we're having these different conversations, it could be easy for, different people to come into the space, but we don't always see as many men. You know what I mean? And I feel like the space that you created with the round table, it's men. And and it's a consistent group of men who show up, you know what I mean? So just want to say shout out to you, and that just speaks to the work and impact that you have and continue to have on others.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So all in all, this is going to be a good conversation. All right. So one of the things that I always like to do before we get into the conversation is to, talk, just identify like an intention for the space. And so some folks have shared like an intention could be something like, I want the conversation to flow. I want to learn something new. I want to be open, blah, 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 blah. So when you think of the intention for today, for this evening, what do you want to put into the space?
Yeah, I think it's, I think one to probably, for folks to learn a little bit more about me.
Yeah.
Because I'm always kind of in your position,
Yeah.
leading the conversation or, facilitating.
Yeah.
And even in that, I share as much as I do, but sometimes I'm more concentrated on making sure the brothers in the circle get a chance to speak.
Yeah.
And to kind of like, just kind of regulate the flow. At this point, there's not much that I do. I just kind of pose the question.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really the questions rather than the answers.
Yeah.
If you ask the right question, I think it'll yield interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And as you know, many, the men in those groups, different consciousness, different life experiences, different ages, different forms of expression and identities, which makes it really a good conversation.
Yeah.
So just kind of keep the flow going, and to try to be as open as possible.
Yeah.
I was reading your kind of preliminary questions, and I was like, how much of this I'm gonna do online? So I was like, I wrote in depends. What we say, but I'm open.
For sure,
So,
for sure. And always know, honor what feels good for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? All right, cool. I love that intention. I'm aligned with that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let it flow. We're going to be open, and we're just going to have a good conversation.
Great.
All right. So before the conversation starts, I have this lovely Palo Santo stick right here that I love to light. And reason why I love Palo Santo so much is because for me, it's an opportunity to just like reset the space, brings in the good vibes, bringing the good energy. There's already a lot of good energy in here. We're just gonna add a little bit more to it.
Sure.
And so I have a little song, what I mean? I'm sure you heard it, so but feel free to jump in or just, what I'm saying. But all right, so we're about to light the Palo Santo stick. And here we go. The Palo Santo stick is lit, lit, lit. Hey, the Palo Santo stick is lit, lit, lit. Hey, the Palo Santo stick is lit, lit, lit. The Palo Santo stick is lit. It's lit. All right. Let the good smell
Yes, it
move
is.
through us, Yeah, All right. I'm going to put this right here.
You have a big jar of Palo Santo sticks.
I know, man. Oh, goodness. So, now that we've had a chance to light the Palo Santo stick, let's get into these thoughts. So, in All About Love, the Vision by Bell Hooks, this is the inspiration behind the podcast. For season 1, I was talking about, each chapter and sharing my own experiences. And, one of the things in the beginning of the book, she shared about this graffiti work that she would walk by, and it like served as like an inspiration for her as she was navigating, just kind of different feelings about a recent breakup. And the graffiti work read, "The search for love must continue even in the face of great odds." So the first question that I want to bring into this space is, why do you believe the search for love must continue even in the face of great odds?
Yeah, I think it's, and I struggle with bell hooks. I love bell hooks.
Yeah.
And I got an opportunity to take her out for lunch one time, and when I'm in my early activism days in this work.
Yeah.
And the reason why I struggled with bell hooks, I think he might have been a part of some of these conversations we had during the roundtable when I asked the question, like, what is love? And what is love to you? And everybody gives me a bell hooks quote.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're cheating.
Yeah.
But what is the experience of love been for you? Right? And why is it important? And I think, in that quote and that statement, I think, I work in a violent space, intimate partner violence, child sexual abuse, multiple forms of layered forms of violence and intersectional violence. And really the answer to all of it, is love.
Yeah.
Like the answer to violence is love. The answer to conflict is love. The goal of really trying to be, vulnerable and authentic, I think that yields love or the manifestation of love. Like if someone is open and honest and vulnerable and they don't get in their own ways, you can only but fall in love with somebody and their experiences and how they've made it to this point, right? And it makes you ask different questions around, why someone is here, right? It's like not what did you do now, like what happened, but really like what happened to you, what led you, excuse me, what led you here, and I think love is that thing, And just sometimes it's like even if, I think we've all achieved or felt love or what we thought was love, it may not even be.
Yeah.
But the process of the journey towards love, I think, is the healing piece. I think it's the challenge. It's the, and sometimes, like even me, even growing up in this work and in the field, it's like the idea of love just seemed, it wasn't like my approach to working with men.
Yeah.
Like my co-executive director prior to her retiring is Sally. I don't know if you met Sally before.
I don't think so.
But so Sally was like we're co-executive directors. She's a white woman, 20 years my senior. And so we have these three intersections, like race, gender, and age, right? And so she would always, she's going to always talk about love. And I'm like, I believe in it, but I can't talk around that. I can't throw that around in such a way, because my thinking was that to approach men, they need to have more of a masculine edge to it, right? Or machismo, or and I think, I just thought that love, and this is me personally, thought that was a little bit soft, necessary, but soft, and that's not going to be the starting point.
Yeah.
But I've learned and I've grown over the years to say that love is important. You got to say it all the time. You got to be in that process, and that's the goal. and the goal is love, and I think it's also the answer.
Yeah.
So I think, and love is many different things. You can define love in many different ways. Depends on who you ask. But it's, I think the process of certain things are sometimes even more important in achieving it. Whatever that thing is, it could be love, it could be accountability, it could be however you define success or whatever it may be, or some authenticity. I think it's the process, the questions you ask someone to maybe give it language to what they're feeling.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's just exactly that. I remember doing work internationally, and we were talking about like these UN documents, right? And then every time there's a CSW, Council for the Status of Women, here, it's headquartered in the United States. There's some documents that are being up for review, right? And there was a secret meeting. I'll tell you all, but don't tell anyone. There was a secret meeting we had one time, and it was really about the language in this particular document. And they wanted to take away certain words. And there's a woman from, I think she's from either Fiji or, I think she may be from Fiji or New Zealand. And she talked about this one word, and it might have been love or some other word similar to that. And she said that there's really no word for that in my country, in my culture. So any change we make is really like a 2 paragraphs of a conversation to explain to somebody what this one word means.
Yeah.
So what I learned from that conversation was words are very powerful.
Yeah.
Right? And so to describe if it was love or another word, I have to tell a story and able to allow someone to understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let alone to have this document and have people agree to it and abide by it. In my home country, these words like, gender violence and misogyny or violence against women, whatever it may be, there's kind of this jargon that we use to really separate ourselves from authenticity and genuine people's experiences. But that, each kind of word or paragraph or sentence or comma is a conversation and a story I have to tell and then a story I have to hear to make sure people are understanding what this silly document is saying. You know what I mean? So I think it's in the same ways that love is a goal, it's a destination, but the process of going through it and the difficulties of it and the simpleness of it.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's complex, it's harmful, it's joy, it's all these different things. So I think for that quote, that statement, it's an important thing you have to kind of struggle with and go through and take the risk. I think love is a risk
It is.
of, being vulnerable, being open, because you may not receive the same thing back.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's like sometimes we don't understand why we're not receiving that back. Because people's traumas or their triggers or their experiences around what they thought was love may have been very harmful to them. So it's hard to give it, or say it to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned like with language and even love, right? Like the person that you were referencing saying that to fully understand this word, I actually have to give a few paragraph story to it.
Right.
And so for me, I was like thinking of like, what would be your story about love to like fully explain it or capture? So I know we were talking, like you explained it with different words, but when you think of the word love, what first story come to mind what story comes to mind?
Yeah, that's a good question. And because who I am and what I do, people think I have this really profound understanding and explanation, but it's hard. I've always defined love as something that when you're in it, no one can tell you otherwise, right? If it could be an intimate relationship or craft or you're a painter, like my mother was an artist. So I've been around art all my life.
Yeah.
In some levels, I'm an artist as well. But like that love you have for that.
Yeah.
And like for me to critique your work, you critique somebody's work, they're like, don't ever speak to me again, or I don't even see what you're talking about,
Yeah.
because I love this thing that I created. Or I love the process of doing that. So love to me is like something that when you're in it, or when you're in love with someone or something, you can't tell me otherwise. I can take critique, I can take what's your thoughts about it. It doesn't make me change it, right? But one thing I think about, like arts and the love of art, or if you're a writer, if you're a photographer, sculpture, watercolor, whatever it may be, or if you write a book, I think it's one thing I think we have to kind of come to grips with is that even though I created it out of love or what I want love to be or look like, but as soon as somebody sees it, reads it, touches it, feels it, it's about what it means to them.
Exactly.
Right. So, and then the other thing about love, I think, is when it ends, is when you could really tell if it was love or not.
Yeah.
Right. When you go through your bereaving, your grieving of the loss of it, and hopefully you do.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't. And that love can become hate.
Yeah.
Or over time, it'll become something that you could think about and reflect on. Like, that was really love, because I'm out of my feelings about it, out of my emotions about it. And I could really think about that experience and what it was. It's like, yeah, damn, that was really love.
Yeah.
Because of how I feel now and how it makes me feel now.
Yeah.
Or you could say, that shit was not love.
Yeah.
That was just some infatuation.
Yeah.
That was some lust.
Yeah.
That was something that wasn't even really about me. That was somebody else's love that I was trying to achieve or meet, or it didn't really meet my expectations of what I thought love was. When it's over, sometimes you can really figure that out.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the love. I love you because you're my brother.
Yeah.
Right. I'm talking about the love of, like, do I love this person, who they are, what they do, what they mean to me, what they do for me.
Yeah.
I'm really, the thing, and what I love about artists is that they are who they are despite what people think.
Yeah.
That being eccentric, or that process of thinking people are weird, some people just define it as that.
Yeah.
Like when you are your true, authentic self, you don't care about what anybody else thinks or what you do. And sometimes it's not the greatest thing, not the most healthiest thing you're doing in the world. Yeah. But you have this compassion and this kind of this will to do it, make it happen. I think that is love. Yeah. If I could see love on you without me participating in it, I think that's the most powerful love. And I know this might be something you ask later, but I think another expression of love to me is unconditionality. Right? It's the loving despite, or loving because, right? And I think one thing in terms of the gender spaces I'm in, I think men are very conditional, because we have power, we have privilege, we have expectations, all this. So we have the opportunity to be selective around how we express it or show it. And I think for the most part, and these are not blanket statements, but I think women, and I learned about love through my mom, unconditional. When me and my brother were fucking up and doing some crazy shit, she was like, showed the same level of love and compassion and understanding, but accountability. Accountability with one hand and some compassion with the other. I think that unconditionality is the ultimate form of love. And I think we need to get there, particularly men, because of the advantages, unearned advantages that we have in society that allows us to say, you know what, my son did something wrong, he's gonna stay in jail overnight. But moms and women generally, I'm not saying absolute, will say, get my boy out of there now. I don't want him or her to experience what that system can do and break them down. But in our minds, sometimes with men, we're like, you know what, he needs to see that. He needs to feel that.
It's that tough
experience
love.
that. So I think, just generally that, sometimes at a cost of their own being, of their own love, unconditionality can be very harmful. And I think women in general, if you identify as women, should be a little bit less unconditional and men should be more. If we met at that middle place, I think that's when we really start having this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. You said a lot. You said so much. And the first thing that, the thing that popped in my mind, the question was, with you learning that lesson of unconditionality, how have you adopted that? And what has been the impact? Because I think the thing with that, right, is yes, we can practice it, but then also us especially as men and men out there, right, could say what's the benefit of doing that? You know what I mean? And the benefit may not necessarily have to do with how we might benefit, but just thinking, I would love to hear your thoughts on just for your experience, how have you adding unconditionality to the ways in which you love others impacted you, but also impacted them?
Yeah, I think it's more about how it impacts them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that might be a gendered thing as well. But I think about manhood in the same way.
Yeah.
Right? Manhood, if you define a man, I think being a man is being more than just about yourself. You know what I mean? But I think when we're talking about this healing space and this platform being one, but I think it's important to do both.
Yeah.
That we need to have a benefit from feeling love and giving love in a way that replenishes ourselves. Because I think we're self-sacrificing in a different way than how, in terms of we think about gender. Because I think about, when you fly in the plane, what's the first things they tell you?
Put your mask on first.
Put your mask on first. And why do they say that?
Because if you can't save yourself, how you gonna save others?
Yeah, if I can't breathe, you can't help anybody else breathe. And that is so symbolic of life. It's like me, if I want to be an example to you, it's more than just saying, do as I say, not as I do. Because the young people, to anybody really, that doesn't compute that much. Because you're telling me and you're being, self-righteous, but you're not even living that way. You know what I mean? So I think part of it is, one, being important to heal. And I think, you mentioned earlier when we talked about the men's roundtable during the pandemic. In a pandemic, we've always been functioning in a pandemic. Right? It's either around racism, sexism, classism. The roundtable is always functioning. We've been going 16, 17 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And the pandemic was just kind of like, we were prepared for it. And, I don't know if you remember, man, we met instead of once a month prior to the pandemic, we met once a month. But during the pandemic, we met twice a week. People thought I was crazy, like, what are you doing? But I felt that there was and I was out of love. Because, that's at night. I don't really, that's not nothing you get paid for. You know what I mean? I even stopped, staff from going all the time because they felt I was forcing them because I said I was doing it. But that was out of love because I felt men in particular needed a space, but I also thought that for women and children that are impacted by men's stinking behavior, it's important that we work with men to make sure that they're not taking out all the ills about what we think it means to be a man, breadwinner, making all these major decisions. We lost that in COVID. COVID became our abusive partner for everyone, right? And it challenged everything that we think it means to be a man, a father, and even for women, everything us being as parents and as adults being a caretaker, everything was impacted by that. So I felt out of love that we needed to have this space, if not only to vent, but one of the things that we did every single time was ask this question, how do you feel? Remember that?
Yep.
And it was unacceptable to say, as a lot of times men do, oh, I'm all right, I'm good. We were like, no, what does that mean? Break that down. What is an emotion that you feel? Break it down for us. And how does it really, how is this moment really impacting you? And And I think that's why I got so popular and so successful. We needed 2 days out of the week. Because I think it was Wednesdays and Fridays. You had 20, 30 people on Wednesdays and 20, 30 people on Fridays.
Yeah.
Because men were seeking a space to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to show love, and to admit that they are powerless in this moment.
Yeah.
And that powerlessness really gave us a sense of humanity, right? And understanding that we don't have to be in charge of everything or pretend like we're in charge of everything and have all these answers. So that was an example of, what I got out of it. Because it was a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you're holding 45 men's issues and thoughts and, a week.
Yeah.
And so what I learned out of it was that I get the most out of those things rather than the men that come to it. You know what I mean? As a facilitator, the leader, the circle keeper, whatever you want to call me, because I'm learning about myself through other men, their experiences, and them being honest. That taught me to be even more honest as well, not to be kind of this, because when you think about me, a lot of times people tell me, "Oh, Q, man, you're so mysterious. You're quiet," or because I could be in this space and sometimes people don't even notice it. I'm asking people how they're doing, but then eventually people call them like, "Well, Q, how are you doing?"
Yep.
It might have been you. Some other people. So I was not able to hide behind being a facilitator or keeper. I had to participate as well. And I think that you guys showed me love, and that was me loving myself too, by expressing in the same ways that everybody else was, being brave enough. So I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's how kind of this learning about being unconditional is. And I think, and it's unconditional on multiple levels, depends on who you ask. It could be like understanding where people are coming from, whatever walk of life you may be, having an understanding for what people have gone through. But I think it's deeper than that, you know what I mean? I think it's, we should not judge, of course not, because we are a moment away from being where that person is.
Absolutely.
A paycheck away, a fall in the street, some trauma or experience that someone has gone through, we could be there just like that. So hopefully there's some understanding, and hopefully people understand when you're going through that as well. Particularly when you haven't been, So I think that if that answers your question, that was some of the lessons from it. But again, sometimes I've seen people be so unconditional to the detriment that they're not taking care of themselves. They get ill, something happens to them, and I think also the piece too, I think, is even when you started off with giving flowers of gratitude, is one to be able to accept help and the flowers or the gratitude, because sometimes we're not built that way. I'd rather, you said this about me. But what about you? Or, just kind of shift the conversation. I think that's important for people too, is for you to accept their gratitude and be thankful for them. Because you are for them, and it's a very powerful thing for people to feel like, oh wow, Q, acknowledge the fact that I care about them, or something that I've done, So I think that's important too.
You, something that came up around just like, even when I'm thinking about the round table, where it was like a space for men to be challenged in sharing their feelings, and I think that, I don't know if we actually have a lot of spaces where that's happening. How can men get to a space where they are more comfortable with sharing their feelings, but it's not something that is considered common, if you, because I even think about, I'm like, the brothers who are showing up in the space, that's a very unique space, you know what I mean? And so with that acknowledgement of like, just, acknowledging men may not necessarily have access to the community that is being created where that can be celebrated or encouraged, what would you say, like, these are some ways that you can lean into this more or get more comfortable with just expressing your feelings?
That's a great question, a tough question.
Yeah.
And I think the roundtable morphed into this.
Yeah.
You know, originally I started it as I actually started it because of the Chris Brown Rihanna situation. Right, I was going on a train, buses, just all this misinformation around what domestic violence was,
Yeah.
or you could even say teen dating violence because they were young.
Yeah.
But like all these excuses people had for Chris Brown and what he did.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, she gave him an STD, a STI. She did this, she did that. But nobody wanted to talk about who Chris Brown was and how he got there.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of it was to kind of dispel some of the myths around what these domestic violence situations are like.
Yeah.
And then I remember, so it was really about talking about domestic violence. And then it was also for men who were doing work with men or young people. So that was kind of what the space was originally. Yeah. And I called it the Domestic Violence Roundtable. So it was only me and Ramon in there. So nobody wanted to be associated with something with a title like that.
Yeah.
So then, so one of the strategies I used was to call it a men's group, a men's roundtable. And then we came up with what are the struggles that men are having?
Yeah.
So to meet them where they are, and if I have them talk about the things that were heavy on their mind. And that was really the number one thing. But then my thing was, if you have the ability to convene men, get their buy-in, but then just don't have a space because it can easily become a space where we develop enemy consciousness around women or other types of men or about moms or about systems and how they favor what have you, how men kind of view the worldview of some men.
Yeah.
So part of it was like to invite them in to talk about the things they want to talk about, but then also weave in, because what I really wanted to talk about was accountability and how we show up in a room and male privilege and male power and entitlement. All of those what I think is important and that we don't address in a typical men's space.
Yeah.
So all of that was important. So it's kind of like weaving people in. I wasn't trying to lie to people about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So it's a balance of what's on your mind, what got you here, what are your thoughts about women and girls and young men and other men, different identities and so forth, and expressions. But the number one thing, to be honest with you, man, is like this podcast. One, being committed. I got these 4 C's.
Yeah.
I'll send them to you one day. I got these QCs.
Yeah.
Right. The first one, and I usually try to break it down to 4 or 5 just for time's sake. The first C is courage.
Yeah.
To have the conversation, to convene the space, and to stay in it. Because I'm challenging the mailbox.
Yeah.
I'm challenging the male spaces of privilege and autonomy and agency.
Yeah.
Because when you're not talking about accountability, those things can fester and grow, right? So one, having the courage to even do that. And then secondly, was being creative, right? So creative is having a round table, a space, creative questions, right? Because the questions, I got to the point during COVID, I couldn't think of any more questions.
Yeah.
Because we were doing twice a week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, brothers, if you have any ideas, Q, man, we trust you. I was like, So I'm trying to find, the creative questions of creativity. It might be showing a clip one night or bringing someone in or whatever it may be. Keep the creativity and the juices flowing. And that's where the arts background comes from. And then the third C was consistency.
Yeah.
Right? And I always use the round table as, that's one thing that I do, right?
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was only me and Molly,
Yeah.
right? But if you're consistent, you say you're going to be there, people are going to test you because, one, if they don't want to get open and involved, and then you're no longer there,
Yeah.
right? They feel exposed.
Yeah.
So the consistency was important. Wednesday at 7, we're going to be there if you come or not,
Yeah.
right? So that was like a test. And the same thing I'd say when I'm working with folks that are in the field that want to work with young people or with men, is that you have to be consistent. You will be tested.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people come in and then you disappear. The funding goes or whatever it may be. And that's why I developed these roundtables. I have the community dialogue, I have a bunch of things, and develop it around something that could be low cost or no cost.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a commitment of time. So being consistent, like, you know, almost 17 years of doing this, I probably missed 5. And even when I'm overseas, I do it.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's 5 because my mother passed, or something like that.
Yeah.
But like being consistent, and when you're there, people are like, yo, okay, they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I think everybody in there, different levels of masculinity, different types of consciousness. I think everybody's cool, and you have to leverage your coolness.
Yeah.
Right? The fact, you know, you're a Q doll, right? And, you know, and then we have Qs there, we have certain people. People come, and I leverage that. I have you talk about that.
Yeah.
And that's my little secret too, is that you're not gonna get away with like, oh yeah, I had a good week, and you know, like tell me who you are, what you do, what brings you in at night. Tell me a little bit more about yourself if you're new. And then I extrapolate all those different things. So people say like, oh, and then the other part is that you going through that, I went through that.
Yeah.
So we have similar experiences, and hopefully we have different choices that we make, or support around the decisions that we make. So that's like one of the tricks. But the other thing is the last C I will talk about is, you know, the communication. Yeah. Right. So a lot of people say, Q, I did what you said. You know, I spoke to them. They weren't listening. Oh, well, how many times you have this conversation? Yeah. Oh, one time, man. They just don't listen. Like one time. Yeah. So that goes back into the consistency. How are you talking about this? You know, Malcolm X said, speaking a language you can understand. Yeah. And that's the same point that this woman from Fiji was saying. We got to break this down in a language that people can understand. Yeah. That's true mastery. So, you know, I can be really clinical. I can use all the jargon we talk about. Even in that space, I do not on purpose. Yeah. Or even other spaces I'm in the community. I'm not going to talk about, you know, masculine hegemony and the misogyny and, you know, violence prevention. And, you know, I'm not going to use those words, right? Because it's the story, it's the narrative. How can I break this down for you to understand through your experience? So I think those things are an important piece. Like, how do you communicate it? Consistency, having the courage to do it, because you're going to get a lot of flack. Yeah. You know, like, oh, Q, man, you calling us out. You know, and that's why I keep it a confidential space. Yeah. As much as I want to share with the world, and people want to. I get more women that sign up every week to this day than men do, because they want to hear what we're talking about. Yeah. You know, they trust me to do it, but you know, even sometimes I'm tested. Like every time a man does something in the world, like, yo, Q, man, what are you doing about Diddy, man? Yeah. Like, one, I'm in a conversation every day of my work, like I'm not doing anything about this, and they kind of blame me for Diddy. Yeah. Or for R. Kelly, or for like, you know, like, so one is to provide that space. And then, you know, women are allowing us to have this own separate space without them, right? Yeah. And they trust that we're informing and challenging and holding accountable. Again, back to that accountability with compassion, you know? So those are little tricks of the trade, but I think consistency is the number one thing, just being there. Yeah. Right? You know, if you don't come, and you come back, you're out of town, or whatever it may be. And I think you even joined us from Salvador Bahia at that time. But like when people don't come for a while, whatever they do, they can come back in that night and we'll be there. Yeah. And they love that and they appreciate that. Yeah. So I think the consistency piece is important because, you know, and people, I would say like black and brown and folks are the most researched people in the world. Yeah. The most, right? And a lot of times people take this information, their stories, and they turn it into something very profitable. Yeah. My thing is, if we're going to get into these conversations, I'm going to hold it. I'll share it with us. Yeah. And we keep it that way, and that's how we learn and we move the needle.
Yeah. Man, you know, I know we've been talking about like just advice or just ways that, you know, men can grow in their essentially like emotional awareness and intelligence. And something I was like curious about was, for you, you know, as someone who gives so much love to others, how do you receive love?
Right, right. Yeah, that's a funny thing, man. It's like this moved me. You know, when my mom died, I was impacted. I'm still impacted.
Yeah.
And Carl, one of the members of the group, you know, Carl, he posted something on Twitter or something like that, and he was like, "Who does the caretaker? Who takes care of the caretaker?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was like a very profound thing for me, and so I had to really think about that. You know what I mean? And that's when I was like, I really need to apply what I kind of promote
Yeah.
or encourage people to do. So it was like really trying to figure out who is my support
Yeah.
circle. If it's not strong, it doesn't need to be a lot of people, but to have some key people
Yeah.
that can, hear me and that I trust to hold what I'm saying to them. You know what I mean? Like, I remember I was in a relationship for a long time, and we were kind of like Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis. Like, and everybody would come to us for relationship advice. But then when that relationship ended, it was like, all right, so what do you do now?
Yeah.
And I felt a certain way because I'm up here telling people how to live and should try this and advise and et cetera, et cetera. So I stopped doing that. So I said, encourage them to explore different ways and things that they can do. And, but the thing was that to really kind of figure out who is there, who's available, and if it's not there, to try to create it.
Yeah.
Right. So that was one part of it. But the other part of it was like allowing, just like I talked about, love is allowing people to love you in the same way as you love them. Was also allowing my close friends who come to me all the time for whatever advice to give me advice.
Yeah.
So part of it was like, all right, damn, it makes sense. And my ego was like, oh, I would have said that myself. But it was more around allowing them to have this empowering feeling of, damn, I could support Q.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the ways that he's done for me. But more importantly was that to allow people in, get my ego out of the way, me thinking that I know, excuse my language, fucking everything, and my worldview is just because it's just my worldview.
Yeah.
And through travel and meeting other people, you learn that there's other worldviews that make total sense to them, and you may unite with that. Being open enough, and I think love does that. Love for my brothers and love for my sisters allowed me to, excuse me, I'm speaking my hands.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all good.
But allowed me to take it in.
Yeah.
Right. And I use this term all the time since I was a kid. I gargle it.
Yeah.
And I spit out what I don't need.
Yeah.
And I ingest what makes me and nourishes me. So I think part of it was that, like really figuring out, and you'd be surprised who that person is or who those people are. Like you talk about, a lot of people talk about, I could talk to the person on the park bench because one, they don't know my experience.
Yeah.
They typically don't judge me.
Yeah.
But to have people closest to you who are relying on you or see you in a certain light, that's more difficult to be open to. So just finding the people to be open to and to whom I think is important. And that's what worked for me. It works for me.
Yeah.
It's a revolving door. Sometimes I'm like, how come you don't see? And my thing is always ask me rather than assume that I can handle it.
Yeah.
Because I've handled it in other spaces or I handle it with you. My thing is ask. Don't just assume, oh, you got that. You're strong. You got it.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is accepting it. And I really love when people ask, because I will ask, yo, how are you doing?
Yeah.
No, for real, how you doing?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. And really being open to the fact that you may answer me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you ask somebody, well, how you doing? And you just hope they say, I'm good. But one day when they break down in front of you, or they tell you, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, damn, I didn't really want you to answer the question.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And and I, what you said, it's like it's resonating, and that's something I was thinking about. Was like with allowing, people to support you in that way. How has that impacted you?
Man, it saves time, man. And I'm not saying it speeds things up, but it really it kind of focuses you. It makes you be more open.
Yeah.
The more open you are, I think the better you receive.
Yeah.
So I think it's great, man, and I think it's and people have experienced things that it may not be exactly what you've experienced, but a lot of it is transferable.
Yeah.
I was in a situation similar to this when I struggled with. Sometimes it's the struggle you need to hear about, not the successes all the time. And I think there's so many lessons from the struggle,
Yeah.
right? And to use maybe harm reduction language or substance abuse language like that, the relapse.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. It's different language and it's about different levels of control. But the idea that people struggle, I got myself together, I took 2 steps back, I pushed forward. And then and another great teacher of mine said to celebrate each and every victory, no matter how small they may be.
Yeah.
Because you accomplish something, you feel good about that,
Yeah.
and it opens you up to even accomplish a little bit more, set a higher goal, another mission you could go on, and eventually you add all those up, then you're really where you want to be.
Yeah.
Excuse my voice.
It's all good. It's all good. Man, I'm just like sitting with all of what you shared, and part of me is also thinking about because I feel like you've been dropping a lot of gems. You know what I mean? And I am curious to see what we get for this particular this next segment of the show, which is called Dropping Gems. So essentially, I have this lovely bowl right here that's currently holding the Palo Santo stick. And within there's like different aspects of love. So there's like self-love, there's family love, the romantic love, there's spiritual love, and it's probably another type of love there. And so I pick one of the words out, and then I will ask like, what's your favorite gem about this particular type of love? And then how did you learn that lesson, and why is it your favorite lesson?
Okay.
All right. So I also have a jingle with this, so don't mind me. I love jingles, man. This is
Right.
So we're about to do dropping gems, and so we're dropping well, we dropping gems, we dropping well, we dropping gems, we dropping well, we dropping gems, we dropping gems, we dropping well, we dropping gems, we dropping well, we dropping gems, we dropping well, we dropping gems, we dropping gems. All right, so the thing with this, man, is it's always so random, and I never know which one is gonna be, which I appreciate because I feel like it adds like some surprising to it. Where it's like this is not planned. We don't know where it's gonna go, but
right.
It always goes where it's supposed to. You know what I mean? Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Oh nope, I'll do this one. All right. Okay. We have friendship love. Friendship love. So when you think about friendship love, what's your favorite gem about friendship love, and why is that your favorite gem?
I think about like my real, true friendships, because I don't know if your case as well, but like a lot of people.
Yeah.
You're popular in whatever way, but to say that somebody's your friend is very different.
Yes.
So, and I think about my friendships over the years. It's like the ones I truly call friends are like brothers or sisters. And it's really that another term, or friends of the family you choose.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, not even to take it on that level, but like I've had friends where we've been in situations like life or death situations, or just kind of pulling each other up. If it's lending each other emotional support, financial support, or just being there.
Yeah.
Traveling to another country or another state or another part of the city, just to be there for them or their families. So I think, friendship, that type of love is really important. And it's like, and for me, sort of like unconditional love, one aspect of unconditional love is being non-judgmental, right? I think it's that. And it's, accepting you for who you are and what you've been through. You're here now, and I think that's the most important piece, that we've all kind of got ourselves to this point. And our paths and journeys they are what they are, but you're here right now. Let's deal with this, and let me also learn about, because all that shapes who they are, or who I am. My experiences, it shapes who I am, what type of friend I am, and who my friends are. So I think that's important. So I think it's just kind of like, I think the friendship piece is not being afraid or timid or shy about saying something that you need or something that you can provide to someone. You got to be straight up, man. If I got it, it's yours. And that's real. You know what I mean? But even to the point where it's almost self-sacrificing. But a friend would say, only if you got it. You know what I mean? I would say the same thing. And that would make sense because, damn, I'm going to give you my rent money because I know you need it and it's more important. But they're like, nah, man. Pay your rent because I may need to stay here.
Exactly.
Just as an example. But I think that is a type of love. And then it's also friends, man. Like, I got some boys, man, that we don't have to talk to each other for years. Right? But on a drop of a dime, we catch up or we fit right in like we were. Like we were talking for years. So I think that's great. That's the type of love I'm talking about with friendship, love. So, and friendships are something you have to work at too. Sometimes you have it, it just clicks and you're almost the same people or you have the same worldview or you've been through some stuff. You think about fraternities or rites of passages, some things you experience together, but even beyond that, right? Because you don't have to have that, but it's like you're going through some stuff, you know what I mean? And you were there, they were there for you, or you're just watching the game and drinking 40s or whatever you're doing, and that's enough, you know what I mean? It's I think, what the beautiful part of friendship is it can be very simple. It could be low level. It could be high end. It could be, somebody you sacrifice your life for. They will for you. Even if you don't want them to do it, they will do it. So I think that's what it is. And the gem I learned from it is to practice, man. To practice friendship. And asking people, what I've learned over the years now is don't force friendship on anyone. Ask them what they need. How can I be helpful? What do you need in this situation? You want to vent? You need some money? We want me to go with you? Or whatever it may be. So I think friendship is good. And it's not everybody has friends or a lot of friends. I don't think you necessarily need that. But I think also being a friend to yourself. You talked about, showing yourself gratitude or giving yourself flowers, doing that too, and hopefully in a healthy way.
Because it's there's a few things you said, but with the point that you just said, you hear a lot about, especially when you're in the space of, like dating or wanting to work towards dating, people say you have to date yourself. And so it's also like when you said that, it made me think about that, but it's also like, well, you also got to be a friend to yourself as well. You know what I mean? In all the different type of relationships that those dynamics we have to give it towards ourselves as well. It's good for it to be outwardly, but also we also have to turn it back on us as well. For that learning, that the learning that comes with that. Something you said though that we were talking about earlier was like around the judgment piece, which I think it's like people are like, don't judge, and in some ways I do think that like sometimes there can be some judgment that creeps up
Yeah.
naturally. You know what I mean? And I think the question that I have is like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? When that judgment, when you're in those relationships, and right now we're talking about friendship, when that judgment comes up, right? Naturally, it's not even from any other space, but it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Yeah, I think it's you got to look at yourself. I think judgment. And I say don't judge. That's like a room agreement.
Yeah.
That's something we want to live or strive towards.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Because we live in a judgment world, and depending on who you are and your background, you're judged from the moment you're born.
Yeah.
So I think it's a goal, and people judge because we think it saves time.
Yeah.
Somebody looks a certain way, so I have all these preconceived notions about who that person is, or what how they'll react or respond, or how you're gonna react or respond to them. You think it's gonna, but what I learned is that the less you judge, I think the more human you see people as. You know what I mean? And the easier you can be compassionate, and the easier you can hold them accountable. It does so many things when you don't do that. And it allows them, or allows you to hear their story. Allows them to tell their story. So judgment is I think, a key thing. When it happens, I think you got to be compassionate to yourself, right? And if you are judgmental, people feel it, right?
Yeah.
I think part of it too is you have to apologize and really state like, I really don't know.
Yeah.
Me not knowing can equal a judgment easily. And the judgment is very ego-driven. It's challenging, it's your id. I think I'm just lumping people in one box.
Yeah.
But I think, because you have brothers.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're saying close in age?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest.
So the oldest is like 41.
Okay, so like me and my brother were a year apart, right? So we grew up, we slept in the same bed, or in the same room. We ate the same foods. We saw my mother in a particular type of way. We experienced, our family, whatever it may be. But even in being that close, we have two different worldviews.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I can't judge my brother. Because one, I know where he comes from, but then when we split off in college or whatever it may be, experience a different world, a different reality. My brother, you'll hate me for saying this, but he struggled with getting employment after law school.
Yeah.
So he had to go overseas. He went to Japan, learned the language. He didn't even know he was language capable in that way.
Yeah.
Became fluent in the language. And then after that, he had to go to China, learn Mandarin and Cantonese. Yeah. That's the struggle, his journey to get a job in the field that he wanted to do since we were like 6 and 7. Yeah. He said, I want to do that. Yeah. So his life and journey was that. So you can't judge him. Yeah. But you want to learn his story. And the things he doesn't know or does know, I can't judge him either. So I was like, wow. So my judgment for him went out the window. So then I had some understanding. So I think part of it is like, don't, if it's harmful, that too. Yeah. If you're being judgmental in a harmful way, you need to check that. Yeah. And see what that's about. Because it's not about that person, it's about you. It might be about privileges you think you have or don't have, or it might be, just different way of living and growing up, or influences of systems, or, racism, classism, whatever it may be. Yeah. But you got to check yourself. But then hopefully, and learn in the process that this person has equal value than I have. Yeah. I think that's ultimately what it is. Yeah. Is this person as valuable as I am? Yeah. To me, it may not seem that way in the beginning, but to somebody, this person means the world to someone, despite what they're going through and what they're manifesting today. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that's a process to not be able to judge and to see people not even equally, but as mutual human beings. Yeah. Right. Mutuality, I think, is the goal. Yeah. Equality, that could be violent trying to reach that. Mutuality is my 70 equals as much as your 30, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, when you said that, it made me think about just like the bringing in that compassion also allows for us to have compassion towards ourselves.
Yes.
And even within like the practice of love, the process of love, the consistent to the commitment to being curious and understanding because it's like the judgment is going to happen, but how do you check it?
Right.
How do you check it and not allow for it to get in the way of understanding and seeking to understand while also being compassionate?
Right.
You know, so I love that. 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 Why is that one of the favorite gems that you name?
Yeah, that's probably my most favorite actually, and I apply it to love.
Yeah.
You know, relationships. And even, you know, particularly friendship too. It's like, because you know, my thinking in reality is if all things are not equal.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the struggle for equality can be, you know, very harmful.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think about freeing the slaves, right? So you got 200 years of being enslaved. And then one day they say, well, slavery's over. You're free. So you got 200 years of being in servitude, not owning anything, not controlling anything, not even able to control yourself.
Yeah.
No agency, no autonomy. And now you send me off.
Yeah.
Of course, they came back and wanted to work for their slave masters.
Yeah.
I don't even know anything else, right? So I think that struggle to say, and even in a relationship, right? You know, you could say, well, I've been controlling, I have the power of controlling this relationship. I want to stop doing that.
Yeah.
To sit down at the table and, well, what are you bringing to the table? I have nothing. Part of the violence or the abuse was I wasn't able to go to school. I wasn't able to learn English. I wasn't able to drive. I can only do but so many things, and you can tell me things are equal now.
Yeah.
So you can say, well, from this point forward, everything's going to be 50-50. I don't even have 10% to bring.
Yeah.
Right? So, but if you approach it this way around, it could be like a reparation. It could also be around an understanding that whatever it is that you bring to the table has equal value.
Yeah.
That's what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
Because it equals one.
Yeah.
It equals 100, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So, but in that process, you know, I'm going to encourage you and help you. And one, to apologize.
Yeah.
And part of the repair is to make sure, one, to figure out what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
Or have you experience multiple things so you can figure out what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? So encourage that, not even control it, but like, yeah, I'm gonna support you going to school, just like you supported me.
Yeah.
Right? Or learn a language or several languages, travel, to support that. And again, so when that person is more empowered, even so, that doesn't mean, all right, now 50-50, no. They may be in a better position than you are at some point. So for you to have to say, well, damn, they're making it. And I've had clients where a client has made $1 more than their partner. And as a result of them making $1 more, they were abusive to them. Right? So to really kind of break this mold of, I got to bring 50-50 to the table for it to be equal, and that makes us the same.
Yeah.
I encourage difference. You know what I mean? And that difference will actually have much more value than me bringing a monetary value or something else to the table, you know?
Yeah.
So I think mutuality is important. Equality, the process of equality is beautiful.
Yeah.
Just like with civil rights, right? We fought for civil rights and equal rights, but it's really about human rights.
Yeah.
Like once you get past that idea of we're empowered, I have mine, you have yours, equity and all those things, it's like mutuality is what we want.
Yeah.
So I don't have to put that pressure on my girlfriend or my wife. Like you got to bring, 100,000 to the table, just like I'm bringing 100,000.
Yeah.
Right? Or otherwise, I'm in control then. Still, right? You want to make it the same. If I'm bringing 20,000 and they're bringing more, that still has same value.
Yeah.
Right? Because what else you bringing to the table? What support, what friendship are you bringing to the table that doesn't have you can't put a price on?
Yeah.
Right? What unconditional love are you bringing that's priceless?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because that it made me like when you said what else are you bringing to the table. It made me think of like sometimes how that can create barriers to relationships.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just like it's like, oh, I'm bringing this to the table.
Right.
So and I love the idea of just like not really getting lost in that,
Right.
and really focusing on just like even if it might not be the same way, really getting a fuller picture of where it's like, well, it might not be this much in this particular space, but then this area it's a lot more, and like just kind of creating space for acceptance is the word, but I don't really know if that really is capturing it, but just creating space to really accept one another where we're at, but then also acknowledging like there is still this opportunity for growth and the acknowledgement that things can change over time, and I think that's what mutuality does. Is just like it creates space for acceptance,
Right.
but then also acknowledging that things can change, and when they do, however it does change, that the love will still be there.
Right.
Yeah,
there's this and I hate to use that term table because it's very corporate and sounds business, but just as a a visual, know. But like I remember seeing this a woman I was dating sent me this meme, and it was 2 columns. And it says, oh, you give me this, you give me that, you give me this, you give me that. And on this one, I say thank you. So it's kind of like looking at that thank you was as powerful, even more powerful than anything material that you could give someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you think about it, like relationships and how they kind of, when they end and they don't work and you find out it's not really love, like what we were talking about before, is sometimes it's like it didn't work because you're valuing one part of the relationship over something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I make all the money in the house, but your partner may bring all the emotionality or the caring or the other piece. That's really a lot more powerful or meaningful than the money. The money you might need that to get the grocery.
Yeah.
But like, the soul food, spirit experience that comes out of the thing it buys is more important. And that's the convening power that sometimes you hide behind not being able to do that, or you think I paid for it, so that's it, right? And not necessarily financially, but like you provided the space and that's it. That's all you're responsible for, and then you take credit for the thing that was created. Right. So I think it's just a question of challenging who we are and what we value, and making sure that people understand that. Like, and you probably notice from traveling, or when you travel more, and you're not in the hotel, and you're really out there in the village, right? Palo Santo sticks, very powerful. Cost probably $3 for a dozen, or for 3 dozen, whatever it may be. But that, clearing, or the setting the tone is much more powerful than, what can be created, because you're allowing that's why I said like the questions are more important than the answers, right? Because you're setting the tone for what can be created or what can be repaired or what can be discussed, right? Or valued, or, I think so. It's just a different way of approaching things and valuing things and people. And how you value yourself. Right? Some people are like, I gotta make this money because that makes me important. People could care less, to be honest, if you're a bad person. Right?
As long as you make the money, that's good enough. And, what it made me think about was just also like what we value and what we need, and how that, like, sometimes that disconnect between that. You know what I mean? And how that impacts our relationships or our ability to have like meaningful relationships.
Right.
Because the things that we put value on might not necessarily be the things we need, but it's but there's this disconnect from that, and until we really check in about like, why do I value this thing? Why is this is this really important to me, or have I believed that this is important to me? Have I believed this for so long and I've never checked in to confirm like that this is actually what you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think that's the invitation as well. Just thinking about like, do I really need this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, because I got a Bentley outside, and sometimes when I'm driving,
Yeah.
I'm like, do I really need
Do
this?
I really need this Bentley?
Or could I, that Kia would have been fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, well, I really, really, really appreciate this conversation, man. I feel like so the last question of the podcast is, so Bell Hooks talks about the invitation to return back to love, and so my last question to you is, how can people return back to love?
Yeah, I think we need to do our own work, individual work. I think a lot. I think the powerful thing about love is that it opens its arms to you.
Yeah.
Even when you've done harm, eventually.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's right away. The unconditional piece is right away.
Yeah.
Come here, baby.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes it's like, you know what? I need you to do some repair first. Right. Sometimes it's the other person doing stuff, or sometimes it's yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, what do I need to do to be open and receptive to someone next time? What is the work I got to do?
Yeah.
And then we bring it together and then try it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so I think the great part about love is that it overextends in times when it shouldn't. And that's what I meant about people being, if you're unconditional all the time, be a little bit less.
Yeah.
Until the other person becomes fully
Yeah.
unconditional. You know what I mean? So a lot of times it's like when we say I'll never love again, or I won't. That's you're protecting yourself.
Yeah.
You've been hurt, or you've hurt someone.
Yeah.
Right, and it looks like to you that you've been hurt.
Yeah.
Right. So so I think it's the words that we used. It's a sense of accountability. It's compassion, being compassionate. Loving yourself, showing gratitude for yourself.
Yeah.
I struggle with holding yourself accountable because of, particularly for us as men, we have all these things that can skew what accountability could look, holding ourselves accountable because of the power, privilege, entitlement that we have. I think because of that, it blinds us to what self-accountability could be, having an accountability partner.
Yeah.
Listen to them. Be straight up with them, be straight up and honest. And that could be the friend that you talked about, that friendship love, that could be that. Someone could be like, you know what? Man, you fucked up in these ways.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you did well.
Yeah.
Or I got your back in the street, but when we get home, somebody got to tell you about yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And hopefully you have somebody like that around you.
Yeah.
Because that's how you learn, that's how you grow, that's how you move the needle, and that's how you can be more receptive of, going back to love.
Yeah.
I think but love will take care of itself. It'll take care of you. It'll take care of the other person if you allow it to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And don't have such an expectation. Understanding that love will bump up, you will bump up against it. Because it'll protect that person. It'll protect you from yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think, just being receptive, authentic, vulnerable, as tough as that can be.
Yeah.
But love will take care of that too. That's what I meant. Like, love is the answer to all of these things.
And accountability has come up so much, in our conversation. And it just is like this reminder that like accountability can really bring us closer to love.
Yeah.
Like by us being accountable, by us being in spaces that create accountability, by us being accountable to ourselves, it just allows for us to receive love, but also give love in a way that can really change us.
Absolutely.
So, man, Well, Q, man, I can't say enough, but I really appreciate you pulling up to the podcast. You know, I'm
Pleasure,
like
man.
this conversation, man, like gems. I'm like, dang, man, like,
Man,
whew, my gosh.
thanks for inviting me, man. It's good to, it's good to be in this position, man.
Yeah,
You know.
no, I appreciate you, man, and yeah, thank you so much. I know you're on social. If you don't want to share your social, you don't have
No,
to.
no,
But
no.
if
It's good.
you,
It's good. It's good.
yeah, but share-
I
if
thought we
you,
were talking about my ex, and she'd be like, ah. That's what I was worried about. It's like, oh, he's lying. Look at him.
so yeah, man, if you want to share your social,
Yeah.
folks can follow you.
For right now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's at Quentin Walcott, QuentinWalcott. And if you want to follow my workplace one as well, my organization is called Connect, and we do gender-based violence prevention work, New York City, and do some work. I personally do some work globally and nationally,
Yeah.
and that's Connect_NYC on most social, and if not, it's at Connect NYC, one word.
Check out Q. Y'all have heard all the knowledge that this brother has. So, yeah, man, thank you so much. And to the homies, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Palo Santo and Thoughts podcast. If you haven't already, we'll always encourage you all to get the book All About Love, New Visions by Bell Hooks. And you can follow me on our socials at Palo Santo and Thoughts. So that's TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, until next time, peace.
Peace.